Here we are, Steve.
All right. Woo! Here we are back for our live program, our Celebration live program every Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern. Thank you for being here with us. We call this our Celebration program. Noah, why do we call it an Celebration
That's
program?
because there's plenty to celebrate here. We're accelerating in our evolution, in our consciousness, in our awareness, and our understanding. And so we might as well celebrate because it's another week, and every day that goes by, there's more and more progress, more growth, more awakening. So let's celebrate here.
Absolutely, and our kombucha. So bring your kombucha or whatever your favorite beverage is to this hour-long program. This, by the way, isn't just regular kombucha. I know the label is Synergy, a favorite label of mine, maybe of yours too. But this is actually homemade kombucha. So you can't see it behind us, but Noah has set up our little homemade kombucha center. And man, we've got lots and lots of kombucha here. So if you ever get out to Boulder, come knock on my door and we'll share it with you. Huh?
There's plenty.
There's plenty. Yeah, lots of kombucha. So we have a lot of fun stuff in store for you here. First, a shout out to all our Humanity Stream members. So, hey, thank you for being here and joining us. And then also our friends on Zoom, Facebook, and watching from other locations. Great to be with you. Again, this is a live program. It's every Friday, starting at 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern, and we go an hour. Now, we like to start the program right near the beginning by doing a watch party where we bring in a module or part of a module from Humanity Stream. And as you know, Humanity Stream includes most of our most popular master classes. But sometimes it can be a little lonely, or maybe we feel like we're on an island where we're watching these things at home. So a watch party where on a Friday afternoon, it's the end of the week, we can kind of sit back, relax a little, and watch something that is a celebration, right? It's accelerating our evolution, but there's some celebration in it too. We're relaxing, enjoying a little kombucha. It's light and fun. So we're going to go right to this module. Now, this is from Our Final Frontier, one of our big programs with Neale Donald Walsch. It's called Our Final Frontier, and we're going to watch that module together. So I think we've got it queued up, and then right after the module, we've got other important stuff we're going to get to. So here we go. Our Final Frontier, Neale Donald Walsch.
Take it away, Garth.
Hello again. Welcome to part 2 of the 24-part program that I've called Our Final Frontier. Let's move forward with a deep look at just how I found it possible to have continual ongoing dialogues with divinity. I've been asked many times this question. Asked that question by people who want to know if and how they can have conversations with God of their own. And so I've looked at my own experience analytically. And I've seen what appear to be, I'll call them 7 steps or stages in having a conversation with God. The first step is to hold as a possibility the existence of a God at all. So I've come to call step 1 possibilities. Once we agree with ourselves that there is such a thing as God, then we move to acknowledging the possibility that people can actually have conversations with God. This extends to accepting at last that such two-way exchanges are not only possible, but that they're occurring right now and have always occurred in the experience of humanity. The second step is to include ourselves in the circle of those who we consider worthy of having such experiences. Many people already believe that people have had conversations with God. Moses said he did, and many accepted him at his word. Muhammad said he was inspired by God directly, and many accepted him at his word. Buddha was said to have reached a state of elevated consciousness above that of the normal human. Joseph Smith said he was visited by an angel and was led to plates on which were engraved messages directly from God. Baha'u'llah felt that he was divinely inspired, and hundreds of thousands have believed him. These beings and others have had some kind of personal revelation that made them feel touched by the hand of God. Jesus went so far as to say that he and the Father were one. Millions have believed him. Krishna, likewise, was said to be God made man. This is the ultimate in talking to God. This is when the talker and the talkee become one. This is when the one conversing and the one being conversed with are one and the same. So millions have already acknowledged that some human beings have had these kinds of experiences. Why then can't we? Well, in most... All right. The fourth step is a commitment to wakefulness, an agreement with yourself to pay attention to God. See, God is all around us, and we're just not paying attention. We may be willing, we may have gone to step 3, but we're not awake. We're not paying attention. Often that's because we're looking too hard for what's right in front of our face. We've listened so earnestly that we've missed the sound. God is talking to us in 1,000 different ways across 1,000,000 moments, but we have to cultivate what I call attentive inattention, or the unexpected expectation, or active passivity. This is when you listen by not listening. It's when you look by not looking. It's when you open your mind's ear and your mind's eye to nothing at all, expecting nothing at all, searching for nothing at all, wishing for nothing at all, striving for nothing at all. Just being with no thing, everything. This attentive inattention turns every moment into a meditation. Just let life go by and watch it out of the corner of your eye, the corner of your third eye. God's conversations will sneak up on you. The lyrics of the next song you hear on the overhead speakers in the store, the article that jumps off the cover of a 2-year-old magazine at the hairstyling salon, the chance utterance of a friend you just happened to bump into on the street, the words on the billboard around the next corner, or a fleeting thought that crosses your mind seemingly out of nowhere. Nowhere. Now that's an interesting word. Nowhere. Slice that word in half and it comes out to now here. God is always now here.
There we go. Back on.
Awesome. We on now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here we are.
All right, so hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, Neale Donald Walsch, Our Final Frontier. So that's just one of many of our most popular master classes that are part of Humanity Stream. And we're going to talk about Humanity Stream here shortly. But first, let's get to the theme of this week's program. And our theme is calling, not career. So we're gonna talk about what that means. A lot of times when people think of calling, they think, oh, maybe somebody of the cloth or something. But and it's true. The people of the cloth would probably say they were called to it. But for many people, including all of us, myself, Noah, and our partners in Humanities Team, where you're going to hear from in just a moment, we were all called to the work we're doing, and our life is just so much more fruitful and beautiful and in flow and much, much more. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But as we open up, there's actually something in sacred text that Noah would like to read that talks a little bit about this. Noah, you want to bring that in?
Sure. And I think I'll just tell this story, and particularly, as Neale brings in with his module of how to hear God's call and how to have not an open conversation with God where we're the caller and the callee. The story that comes to mind is the story of Abraham, particularly the story of Abram, before Abraham was Abraham, and he was Abram. And so in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, we're told that essentially this person, Abram, was 75 years old. He lived with his family. He was very comfortable. They were well off. He was with his fathers and all his kin. And one day, the story goes that God called to Abram and said, Abram, essentially, God says, pick up and leave all that you know. Leave your family, leave your fathers and your kin, and go to a land that I'll show you. And so Abram is 75, and he's lived in this place his whole life. But God called to Abram. So God calls to Abram and says, pick up and leave. And I won't even tell you where because it won't make sense, but just listen to my voice and I'll show you where to go. Just trust. Now, all too often in the telling of this story, it's typically thought of or told in a way where there's a booming voice from the heavens that God calls down from the sky, Abram, pick up and go. But I must believe that that it was far more subtle and yet more profound than that. I would venture to say that Abram felt this inner calling, that he was 75 and had everything going on, and as the world defined it. But he had a calling, he had an inner calling to pick up and leave all that he knew and just to venture. He knew, I just have to go travel in the wilderness for some time. And so this is I think what Neil is talking about when he shares how all the masters tapped into this communication. And when it's presented in a way where it's a booming voice from heaven or this major, external experience, then we could tend to dissociate ourselves from the calling that we have right here. Because as Steve has said, all of us here have a calling, and we're all following our calling in some way, because our calling here now is to be here now, is just to, as Neil is saying, to be inattentively attentive or attentively inattentive. So all of this is to say that our calling is not necessarily something that'll be presented in some grand external way, but it's something that is within ourselves, always here now. And so we're always calling, listening to this calling, the teammates here at Humanities Team and with our organization. And I know we've all had this sort of experience to, be linked up with this group. So, of course, I think it's only fitting to start with the originator, or one of the originators, Steve. I'm wondering if you could tell us a bit about your calling, that maybe the calling that you feel now, and how it ties in with Humanities Team, the calling that led to the founding of Humanities Team at its inception.
Absolutely. I would be happy to. I was going to throw this back at you, Noah. And also we have partners here that are lined up that are going to come on and share their calling. And I don't want to be the pig at the trough here, taking too much of our time. But let me share briefly about my own calling. Mine was unusual in the sense that often a spiritual calling is one where we're hugely challenged, things are falling apart, we're the wheels are coming off, and then we're like, oh no, I'm in crisis, and then there's this birth of a spiritual calling. The unusual thing about mine was it was the opposite of that. I was actually living the American dream with all of the kinds of things that people do in Silicon Valley when their company is just growing by leaps and bounds and taking off, and you get to go to some kind of extraordinary places on extraordinary transportation and stuff. And it was at this time that I came into my own awakening, into this understanding that we're not separate, understanding there's this illusion of separation where people think that we're separate from each other. and we're separate from the planet, and we're separate from animal life. And I came into my own awareness that wasn't true at all. That actually we're all deeply interrelated, interconnected, and interdependent. That we're actually all an emanation of one thing. And so when I came into this awareness, this whole American dream thing seemed like very much of a kid's game to me. Like I'm just like a kid, just enjoying sort of this luxurious ride type thing. And at a time when, even though this was back in the 1990s, so this was 25 years ago, but even 25 years ago, we had all of these challenges that we see in the world today, insofar as climate change and environmental degradation and inequality and so much more. So I lost my passion for business at this time, even with this whole American dream thing happening, and dedicated my life to this spiritual journey. It actually took a couple of years before I got the call from Neale Donald Walsch in early 2003 to co-found Humanities Team with him. So I was, for a couple of years, I'd sold everything and I was on the sideline, just feeling into this whole spiritual calling thing. I knew that I was called to leave the business world, but I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do. And then, of course, in June 2003, we launched Humanities Team in Wilsonville, Oregon. We had about 800 people with us. And here we are 18 years later. So that's a little bit about my calling. Now, Noah, I would love to, first of all, the Abram story is awesome, and it really is one of the big biblical stories. But I also know your personal story, and I don't know that others do. I'd love to hear, can you share your personal story?
Sure, and I assume you mean to bring me to Humanities Team in
just
specific.
Exactly,
specifically. Yeah, like you said, I'll kind of just take a few minutes at this trough here, Steve, because we could get pretty deep here. But essentially, I was brought to Humanities Team. In a way, the entire material world around me fell apart. All that I was working on kind of disintegrated. I was in substantial debt. Everything that I had worked on materially failed and crumbled, and I was left with nothing materially, physically. And so about this time was when I started studying A Course in Miracles, because honestly, I didn't think that it made sense that that all the things could be just disintegrating and crumbling and not. It didn't make sense to me that all that would be happening. So I started reading A Course in Miracles. I guess that's what it took for me to take it seriously. But then when reading, even though the entire external world was falling apart, and of course this is, personally, financially, my businesses weren't working, the things that I was working on weren't working. And so A Course in Miracles made perfect sense. So even though everything was just falling apart, seemingly, and debt collectors were calling me all throughout the day and calling my family members and my friends all throughout the day, and them telling me, hey, a guy from, MasterCard called me or whatever it was. Even though that was happening, and it seemed like everything, I felt the inner peace. I felt that things made sense. A Course in Miracles provided to me this psychology where I could see through it, not in a way of discounting it and looking the other way, but understanding that even no matter what can be going on externally, that we're still here and this is the will of God here now, that we be here. And so, of course, right around this time is when I was brought to Humanities Team, through my mother, actually. My mother was featured on a chat. She's the author. Karen Noe is the author of We Consciousness. And so one day, Steve and Neil were talking about Our Final Frontier, the masterclass, the course of which we just watched a snippet. And Steve started talking about We Consciousness. And so one of our family members was watching it and called up my mother and said, Karen, Steve Farrell and Neil Donald Walsh are talking about your book right now. Here's the link to watch. So she didn't know about Humanities Team. She connected with Steve. She started working on Global Oneness Summits. She connected me with Humanities Team, and I signed on to do some preliminary video work, which, as it coalesced, is exactly what we're doing now. So all of this is to say that Humanities Team became, at a time in my experience in my life, nothing made sense, but Humanities Team was this group of people, this organization, this message that is so embracing and inclusive, and it makes sense, and it's always assuring and inspiring. So when everything else was crumbling, Humanities Team was saying, come on, bring it on over, and everything may seem like it's falling apart, but we're here to provide a hand. So that's the skinny, Steve.
That's quite a story. Noah, pass that kombucha back over. Thank you. So our homemade kombucha, and seriously, we invite you to join us on these Fridays, 12 Pacific. Bring your kombucha or your tea or your water. Hang out with us. We do these watch parties, and share a lot of personal stories. Invite you to share your stories now. If you want to put your personal story in the chat window or in comments, or shout out to us with anything, go ahead and do that. We can actually see your comments, and we can actually talk about them live here during the program. So all of our Humanities Stream members, but also all of our friends watching on Zoom, Facebook, from whatever location you might be, shout out to us. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll bring it into our programming.
And we have one chat from Colette. Colette says, I believe in God. I see God all around me. And so, amen, Colette.
Beautiful, Colette. That's the the Cliff Notes there.
Yeah, right.
That goes right to it. And we're gonna bring in partners here in 1 second, but let me just share, actually, relating to what Colette shared, Noah's story, my story, and these stories we're going to tell. That, I mean, the really neat thing here is this calling. So often is people feel like, oh, it's going to take me from these things that I want to do. I was focusing on the American dream, or their particular things from growing up that I thought I wanted to do, and then there's this nudging, or this tap on the shoulder, sometimes we call it, that people feel, and people are reluctant to honor that tap on the shoulder, to really listen in to what am I being invited to? Like at this time for me, when I'm a CEO of a fast-growing technology company, or at this time for Noah, when he's also an entrepreneur experiencing all of these things. It could have been easy for either one of us, or for you, to just ignore the tapping on the shoulder, this thing, this still small voice that's saying, hey, you came into this life with a purpose. There's something meaningful here that we can do in this calling. And so often it's ignored because there's this sense that we're going to maybe have to give everything up and go live in a cave or something. And it never works like that. Instead, we come into, if we honor the calling and we leave that Silicon Valley job, we leave that entrepreneurial opportunity. We're Abram, we hear the calling, not as some booming voice, as Noah shared, but just as a clear voice. It's not a booming voice, but a very clear voice that's unmistakable. That you could call it the Holy Spirit or the divine or God, as Colette shares. That's saying, hey, you came into this life with a purpose that's bigger and more important and more fruitful and more prosperous than what you've got in front of you right now. So, and where we honor that calling and then we go in service into it, these beautiful things happen, where we come into flow. We get to, just like right now, we get to sit here with the little homemade kombucha, and talk to you about the conscious journey. And so much more in Humanities Team, actually all week long. We're working on all these really cool, brand new master classes and podcasts and Global Oneness Summit and so many things that are exciting and that involve so many people all over the world. And the reason we get to do this is we honored our calling, and we weren't afraid that we were going to have to give everything up, and we were going to go to something that was going to be unsatisfactory. Just the opposite. If I hadn't honored my calling and I was just doing material reward stuff in Silicon Valley, I would be, for one, I'd be aged a lot more than I am. My family would not be enjoying the prosperity that it's enjoying. I wouldn't be hanging out with incredible coworkers like those here in the Humanities team. So that's a little bit about just answering the calling when it comes in, and so focusing on the calling, not the career. Now, would love to bring in our partners here. Dee Meyer, if she's standing by, would love to bring her in.
I know Karen's standing by. Karen Gordon.
Karen Gordon. Okay, we go to Karen first here. Karen Gordon.
Okay. Well, hi. Thanks for inviting me in. I wanted to say hi to all of my fellow Accelebrators. And I know that Dee is here. I'm just not sure if you're able to see her. My story is similar to Noah's. Things are falling apart around me of a financial nature. But I didn't have that thing that he talked about with A Course in Miracles that kept me steady. What happened with me is I went into a pretty extreme fear and sorrow. I thought I was going to lose my home. I've been here for many, many years, raised my children here. My roots run deep. I didn't want to lose it. I wasn't really understanding a state of surrender yet in that moment of fear and anxiety. But the fear became so extreme that I got to a state where I just didn't know what to do. I had no idea where to turn or what to do. And so I went into surrender without fully understanding what it was or what it meant or what it might lead to. And in that moment of surrender, long moment, a few days later, something crossed my desk from one of Humanities Team's partners. And by the way, I'd never heard of Humanities Team. This is about 2 or so years ago. Received a newsletter from one of our partners about a Barbara Marx Hubbard course. And the sales letter pulled me in. And although I shouldn't have signed on for the course and put money on my credit card, I did. And that was my first moment of following a calling. I didn't use the term calling back then. I used the word impulse. I followed my impulse to sign up. One thing led to another, and I realized, oh, Humanities Team, they're the producers of this program. Who are they? I'd never heard about them. And I went to the humanitiesteam.org website. I looked around. It was very interesting to me. And I saw that they had a volunteer section. And I scrolled down the list and I was like, well, I can't do that. I don't have the skills for that. I don't know how to do that. And then I landed on a call out for somebody to help write e-blasts in the sales and marketing department. And having a background as a freelance writer and editor, I thought, well, I can do that. And so I wrote in and volunteered my services in that department. And again, that was really against what the traditional external world would have said I ought to do, because being in financial crisis, I should have gone out and looked for a full-time job, something lucrative. But instead, I volunteered with Humanities Team. And that was a little over 2 years ago. I came on as assistant to Dee Meyer in the sales and marketing department. And she trained me, and others came in and trained me and mentored me. And 2 years later, here I am and working in the communications department and writing about things that I love, writing about oneness and awakening and connection and unity and love, all the things that I wanted to write about previously. working with teammates who are just extraordinary, um, continually learning new things. And the funny thing about all of this is that it is true. I followed my calling and here I am. But for me, it turned into a career. And so I have both. I followed my calling into this beautiful environment called Humanities Team. And I also have a career. And I just couldn't be happier, more fulfilled, more enthused, and honestly just grateful to be a part of this team.
Beautiful, yeah. And Karen, thanks for bringing that in. This whole notion of a calling that turns into a career, which is actually often how it works, where it's something that's deeper than just the career, where the calling becomes a career, then the blessings and the prosperity and the flow and all of that comes together. And of course, what we're doing here is we're just putting into words this what this conscious journey is, because of course we call ourselves the #1 global nonprofit in transformational education. Of course, there are big for-profits that are in transformational education. We're the big nonprofit that's in transformational education, and we've been around 18 years. The three things that we're focused on are supporting people on their conscious journey, creating planetary awakening, and manifesting flourishing at all levels of life. And actually those three things are really all kind of the same thing. When we talk about supporting people on their conscious journey, that's the individual path that involves the collective, which is planetary awakening. And when we're on this conscious journey individually or collectively, this flourishing thing naturally happens. It's what we're describing here now. When we describe this calling that becomes a career, is it just flourishing just unfolds in our life. There's a hedge of protection around us. There's even a force that's out in front of us that's removing boulders from our path professionally and for us individually and for our family. There's this force really that is the one that we call the Divine and Humanities Team, that is holding the sticks, if you will, that's inviting this whole conscious journey in the first place and this whole way of living on the earth, so that we, as this unfolds, we unfold into a day where it's this so-called heaven on earth thing, where people are treating each other lovingly. Where it's the agape love, not just the romantic love, an agape love that people feel for each other, and they feel for the earth, and they feel for the animal kingdom and all life on earth. That's really what this unfolds into. And so that's the work of Humanities Team, is to support these things, and not only to support these things, but our vision and our plan is that we actually manifest these things during our lifetime. So, and isn't it interesting that COVID came along here, the pandemic, this last year, which was extremely challenging probably for all of us. But there's always a silver lining too in challenges. And this silver lining perhaps, that we were forced into quarantine, into a quiet space, into introspection, into getting in touch with our deeper values, and just deciding, am I living the life that I was meant to live? Can it be better than this? Is there more here for me? Is there something for humanity and the planet maybe that we're not steering toward? These are some of the kinds of questions that people share surface for them. And of course, all of these questions lead to the conscious path, away from just hit the accelerator, and just let's get back going 100 miles an hour to manifest materiality for the sake of materiality, which was kind of how things were working there pre-COVID. And don't you sense now that there's the people are more in touch with their deeper values, and they're more steering toward things that they really want for themselves and their family and the world around us. That's what we see in the humanities team, that we've adjusted our course some here during COVID, during the pandemic. And we're excited about that. Of course, we've been here with people holding these challenges for this last year with COVID, but happy about the silver lining, that maybe we can steer towards something better, and we can manifest this whole unity consciousness or new spirituality or oneness. It goes by many names, doesn't really matter what name we choose, but maybe we really can manifest this during our lifetime. So that's our plan here in the Humanities team. That's what we're here to do. And all of us were called to this work. And I know you're watching this program because you're on the conscious journey also. And as a nonprofit, we don't have any shareholders. There's nobody that is grabbing these big bags from a Brinks truck, from revenue that's coming in. Isn't happening here. So all of our revenue just being plowed right back into master classes that are supporting people, live programs like this one, the Global Oneness Summit, mentoring programs that we create, brand new master classes that are truly supporting the conscious journey, not just hit the accelerator, let's go make $1 million. Let's get our vision boards out. Not that there's anything wrong with vision boards, but we're aiming at something other than that. We're aiming at really deeply supporting the conscious journey. So now, this is a really good segue over to a discussion Noah and I can have here. And by the way, we're still keeping an eye on comments that are coming in. So comments, questions, your own conscious journey, throw them in the chat, and we'll shout out to you. We actually love the interaction. So anytime that you want to comment, please do. Now, so as we're talking about the work of Humanities Team, this brings us straight into Humanities Stream, which is this really cool, one of a kind, really brand new thing on the scene here in transformational education, because we're streaming our master classes and providing live programs and virtual programs and community and all kinds of stuff that support people on their conscious journey. And we're doing it for only $39.99 a month. So we're breaking ground with our price point. There's nothing like it anywhere in the transformational education industry. We're breaking ground in terms of streaming something that has a Netflix-like or Amazon Prime-like interface. That's that graphical, that intuitive. So you just click on something and you go right into the modules. You're not trying to steer around technically. Reach out by email to say, hey, I'm in I'm in your hub, but I don't know how to get. I'm trying to get to this module, and I'm challenged getting to it. All of that complexity gone. So we're breaking ground here in a huge way with Humanities Stream. Now, Noah was a key person here in Humanities Team creating this program. So Noah, do you want to sort of talk about some of the things that you're most excited about?
Sure. What excites me most about this particular aspect of Humanities Team, which is Humanities Stream, is that it's pretty much everything that we offer under one umbrella. Every video resource, of course the community is involved and so forth, but this is another discussion. But all of the resources that we've compiled, that Humanities Team has recorded for so many years, the summits, the panels, the interviews, the master classes, all of these, particularly the master classes, these very robust programs are in this one platform that you can search for your favorite author, you can search for different topics, and you can just watch. It's set up in a way where, by the way, it'll be even more accessible in the coming months as we make some nice announcements about it. But you just log on your computer, hop on your phone, and it's made to play the next video and play the next video, so that if you're sitting down to watch a masterclass, you can, just as you do as we might do on Netflix or some other streaming platform, you can just hit play and sit back and enjoy it, where we can have Michael Beckwith, and we start with his first module and play. And the modules tend to be 15 to 25 minutes, something like this. So you hit play and then sit back, and then it'll play all the way through, and then the next one will come right up and start playing from the beginning and play all the way through. And you can just sit and enjoy as much as you like. Now, when I say enjoy, when we say enjoy about this, it's a different kind of enjoyment. It's more of an enjoyment than a passive entertainment value. Of course, the master classes are entertaining, and most of the content that we have is entertaining. But even more fundamentally, it's structured in a way that it fosters and encourages the growth, the expansion, the awakening that we're all called to at this point. All of us on this planet, pretty much everybody on the planet would agree that things are changing. That everything is in flux and things are changing very quickly. We can call this whatever we'd like. Of course, there's COVID, and this has something to do with it, but even no matter what is going on, there's a lot of change that's going on, and personally, collectively. And this material is built for this sort of circumstance, because when everything seems to be changing, we have this rock, the foundation of our existence, what we can call God, or the One, the Divine. All of this, every single part of it, this oneness that Humanities Team speaks about, the oneness, which is everything and everybody and every thought and every experience and every circumstance, every piece of matter, all of this is essentially also within ourselves. And we have access to the knowledge that allows us to enjoy it, to actively enjoy it in each moment, no matter what's going on externally. We provide what we're called to provide in our content, in our master classes, and our live programs like this, is for the capability, the tools, the resources, the inner practice, such that no matter what is going on externally, no matter what's changing or not changing, that we have this inner practice, we have this technique, we have this psychology to enjoy it. So things may be turning on and off because of COVID, but we're rooted with this deep inner peace because we've been taught by the masters. And this is, I guess you posed a loaded question, Steve, but this is what I think is most excites me about Humanities Stream, is that we have the ability very easily. So we're not for a good amount of time, we were kind of limited in the platform that we shared this content. So people had trouble logging in, and people didn't know where to click, and the video was over here, and then you couldn't find the next video. But now all of that distraction is out of the way, because everything is in one umbrella. You can just search for it, it pops right up, you click on it, you see all the videos. All of the distractions are out of the way, and what's left is just this content from masters in the field of oneness, of love, of divine, of God, so that nothing is there to distract, and just the content is what is left.
Yes, and boy, and you share masters, so like Thomas Hubel, and Neil Donald Walsh, and Barbara Marx Hubbard, and Michael Beckwith, and Panache Desai, and Greg Braden, and Bruce Lipton, and Lynn McTaggart, and the true masters in this whole transformational education field. So it really is, it is amazing. There's nothing like it in the industry right now. Can we cut to just the interface so you can see what it looks like? And by the way, this is Humanity
Okay, here we're back on.
Okay, so now here's the interface that we just placed on the screen. So this is Humanity with a Y, Humanity Stream, one word, humanitystream.tv. Go to humanitystream.tv, you'll see this interface, and then you can just scroll down the interface and you can actually see all of the master classes that are in there. You'll see the over 350 other programs that are in there, the 450 plus hours of content that are in there, all at this groundbreaking price with this groundbreaking interface, with this simplicity and with this ease of use. And as Noah shared, that goes beyond just like, I'm going to chill and just watch a mindless show on Amazon Prime. This is more acceleration. So, because we're accelerating our conscious journey, after all, we're sitting here then with the masters in the transformational education industry. But it's also a celebration. It's not a serious thing like we're in the library and we better not make any noise. It's more of a, hey, I've got my homemade kombucha. I'm sitting here with Thomas Hubel, and a lot of times even with a watch party, physically or virtually, hanging out and learning a lot and having fun. And isn't that what life is supposed to be? So it's not that we can't make that chill out time, because we will with Amazon Prime, etc. But hey, what of setting aside time each week for acceleration? So that's what we're inviting. Here again is the interface. This is humanitystream.tv, and you can scroll it. There's a 7-day free trial. So if you like what you see, you can just try the 7-day free trial, and then even when you acquire it at the $39.99 a month, there's an additional week of guarantee. So you got 2 weeks of free use to really get acquainted with all of what's here. Now, what's here in the at humanitystream.tv is not the sum total of it. We have virtual platforms that you're invited to. There are threaded private Facebook pages for each of the master classes. There's humanities.team, our own virtual community, where you've got people like yourself that are living the conscious journey year round and posting pictures and graphics and inspirations and lots of cool stuff. All of our live programs, so including mentoring, there are 2 mentoring programs coming up here very shortly with Deborah Poneman that are part of this brand new masterclass called New Kind of Power that we're launching. And then after that, there are 2 60-minute mentoring programs with Christy Whitman. And these women are leaders with so much wisdom, brilliant, that are living this new kind of power, which is, by the way, what we're talking about here as we talk about the conscious journey. It's not power over, it's power through and power with is what this new kind of power is. So there are these mentoring programs. When we do the Global Oneness Summit, there's an upgrade that's about $100, and that's thrown in for free. And when we do our global, our spiritual leadership award ceremonies, like this year we're celebrating Greg Braden, we're inviting all the stream members to come in for that first half hour with Humanities team as we talk to the celebration person, the person we're honoring, which is Greg Braden, who's such a worthy, by the way, leader for this award. We're real excited about giving him that award in September this year. So these are some of the things. All of the new master classes, or most of them, are going into stream as well. So it's not only what you're seeing on that Humanities stream.tv site, that's what's there now. Every quarter we're bringing in new master classes. So it's a subscription service for 12 months where all of these programs and these new programs and these live programs and Global Oneness Summit and virtual programs and on are included. So, and we're a nonprofit, so we didn't try and just create money bags around these things. That's not why we're here. We're 18 years old, and we're here to, in our lifetime, to support people on the conscious journey all over the planet. So that's why we're here, and we've created something very affordable that just provides all of these levels of support, including watch parties like this, where we gather once each week live to just hang out and talk. So that's a little bit that we wanted to get to here. And boy, this hour is going fast. No, I want to just.
We have
yeah.
a couple chats,
Oh,
Steve, if you don't
fantastic.
mind.
Yeah.
So Colette again says, listening to you makes me feel comfortable and happy. Thank you. So thank you, Colette, for your collaboration in this hour with us. And Carla says, thank you so much for sharing this. Your organization has been a true blessing for me navigating through a recent Kundalini awakening.
Nice.
So
yeah.
thank you, Carla. And one thing before we segue possibly into something, Steve, we talk about stream and, I just wanted to bring in the fact that these master classes, they're on their own, they're an 8-week program. Like these are substantial.
Yeah.
Each master class on its own, the price is $297 to buy the master class, and we have 10 of these in here and growing. And as you're saying, it's a living subscription, so there's always new content being added. And just to put some sort of idea of the value of this, that each of these master classes on its own is $297, and you get all of these in the subscription.
With the bonuses, yeah. Thank you for bringing that in. And what is it totals? We actually, people had asked us, what is if we bought all of these master classes and programs and bonuses and things separately, what does the total come to?
It's something very high, like $5,000 to $10,000. So,
yeah, we don't have the exact number here. It's if you go to our humanities team page, and we'll bring that in the future, because it's astounding what the total is for all of these programs together, and that are now coming to you for $39.99 a month. So amazing. But again, we're nonprofit, so our thing wasn't about, it's let's just say it's $10,000, which I think it actually might be more than that when we extended all of this to dollars. But it wasn't about monetizing this and getting the maximum revenue and profit from it. It's about maximizing the reach, the impact, the support for the conscious journey, planetary awakening, accelerating flourishing in every level of life. So that's what this is about. And that's why that's why we're breaking ground here, candidly, with this program. So invite you to check it out. And with a 7-day free trial, hey, there's no downside, right? Come in and check this out. Join us on Fridays. Come in and talk to us. Let us know. Share during the program. What do you love about the program? As we're creating new master classes, what are things you'd like to see? As we're creating new summits, our Global Oneness Summit this year, what are panels you'd like to see? What are speakers you'd like to see? So love to have that interaction with you. Okay, well, Noah, this hour's gone fast here. And so our kombucha's getting low. We
got plenty more, Steve.
Fortunately, we got a big barrel of this just behind us. And boy, we are, by the way, having a blast in our new studio here that you can see behind us. So yeah, Noah and I are sure enjoying this new studio with all of this additional space. We look out over the Flatirons here, and really beautiful. So, and nice to be with all of you all here today. Now, I'm going to talk about next week's program, but before I do, any final things, calls to action, or things that you want to share here, Noah?
I'd like to thank Colette and Carla and Christine and everybody who's typing in chat, and also we're piecing this whole live broadcast thing together bit by bit. This is brand new for us, and so thank you, Garth and Jim behind the scenes. Thank you, Karen, for coming on, and Dee. We'll get you on next week. We'll figure out these things. There's a bunch of wires to connect and buttons to press and things to click. So thank you for bearing with us, and thank you for everybody that's making this possible so that we can sit here and just enjoy kombucha for a bit.
Yeah, and so thank you for bringing in. So Garth Catterall is in the background. He's manning all these cameras. Karen Gordon is still standing by, who you met just a little bit ago. Jim Gray, who is now coming into these programs weekly. Dee Meyer, who's always in the background, kind of helping to coordinate everything. So these are some of the people that are making this program possible. And so shout out to all of you, and also these people who've been shouting out to us from humanities.team, Facebook, Zoom, etc. So, big shout out to all of you. And we're, of course, coming into the weekend and hope you've got a magnificent weekend planned. Really appreciate you hanging with us, spending quality time with us here on your Friday afternoon. Okay, well, let's talk about the program next week. So each of these, we're theming these a little different every week. So next week, we're bringing in, and of course, we're right before Valentine's Day, which is also World Sound Healing Day. You maybe know the two are one and the same. Valentine's Day, so love, romantic love, but World Sound Healing Day, so agape love for the whole world. And this was the work of Jonathan Goldman and Andy, his wife, who created World Sound Healing Day. And they're going to be our guests here on our program next Friday. They're going to talk about World Sound Healing Day. We're going to talk a little bit about Valentine's Day, love for each other, love for this beautiful planet, and inspirations that Jonathan and Andy want to bring in. You maybe know they share Heal Yourself, and we heal the planet. Heal the planet, we heal ourselves. Why is that? Because we're all one. That's why, so you heal the planet. If we're all one, then where we get healing on on one side of the coin, we get it on the other, right? So, and this oneness thing, as we know, is not an abstract notion at all. It's real, it's practical, and all of these things we're talking about today, as we're talking about our conscious journey and honoring our calling that becomes our career and stuff. These are the practical applications, the tangible ways that oneness really is right here, right now. So we'll keep talking about it, but we're gonna theme each of these programs in a slightly different way. We'll have a lot of fun next week with Jonathan and Andy. And just want to close by, again, thanking all of you for spending your time with us here on a Friday afternoon. Look forward to doing this here every week as a live program. Going forward, this, of course, is a live program. And thank you, brother.
Thank you,
Noah.
Steve.
Yeah. And,
Do our little...
Yeah. So thank you. Yeah, and high five and namaste to all of you. Thanks for being with us on your Friday. Look forward to being back with you Friday next week. Brought to you by Humanities Team. Okay.
Amen.